Jai Gurudev. So today we move on to a very, very interesting part in Yoga Vasistha, where you can draw a parallel between what Vasistha is saying and what Lord Buddha said. So we did a little bit of this during the Buddha weekend. So we'll draw a parallel between what they are saying. Okay? So let's start reading page 284. Who's going to read?
I can read. Rama asked, O sage, if the cessation of movement of prana is liberation, then death is liberation, and all people attain liberation at death. Vasistha replied, O Rama, when prana is about to leave the body, it already makes contact with those elements with which the next one is to be fashioned. These elements are indeed the crystallization of the vasanas, psychological conditioning, memory store, past impressions, and predisposition of the jiva. The reason why the jiva clings to those elements, when the prana leaves the body, it takes with it all the vasanas of the jiva. Not indeed until these vasanas have been destroyed will the mind become no mind. The mind does not abandon the life force till self-knowledge arises. By self-knowledge, the vasanas are destroyed, and thus the mind too. It is then that the prana does not move. That indeed is the supreme peace. It is by self-knowledge that the unreality of the concepts concerning worldly objects is realized. This puts an end to the vasana and to the link between the mind and the life force. Vasana constitute mind. Mind is the aggregate of the vasana and not else. If the latter cease, that itself is the supreme state. Knowledge is the knowledge of the reality. Vikara or inquiry itself is knowledge.
So we did chittas, we did that mind is nothing but a stream of chittas. You remember that? Your mind is nothing but one image after another image, another image, another image, just put back to back to back to back to back. Just like you watch a film, you see a hero move, a heroine move, but really there is no movement. If you go to the back room and see the film, it's just one image after another image after another image. And we have played when we were all little kids with that book in which, you just flip through the pages and it seems that the person is walking or running or going up the tree and coming down the tree. But it is really just pages put one after the other after the other. Remember? So you understand what I'm saying? Mind is just a congregation of images put one after the other after the other. That's all mind is. And what are these images really? These images are only my vasanas from the past. My strong impressions from the past get stored in my memory bank and they come up in my own mind. Okay? So we all remember from the Buddha weekend this definition of the mind, that it is just a stream of chittas. Very clear? The second point I want to remind you is every chitta, every image is called a chitta. Chitta 1, chitta 2, chitta 3, chitta 4. So these are images in my mind. If Shalini says something to me, some words of praise, they come in, and then they come in through the ear. So that is why we've just put pictures of the ears. It's not that really there are pictures of the ears in your head. This is just a way to kind of understand how chittas get formed. So Shalini says words to me. Yes. In my head, I play again the same words. There is an echo in my head. Happens to all of us? Yes. That echo is nothing but Chitta 1, Chitta 2, Chitta 3, Chitta 4. The n number of times that I play those words in my head, that many Chittas get created. Understood? Yeah. Now, what happens at the time of death? At the time of death, if I have a strong attachment to some words that I heard, maybe something that I heard now, just before my time of death, or many years ago, and they come to my mind. From where do they come? They were sitting in my memory bank. Yes, I had stored them. 20 years ago, she stood in the middle of the road and insulted me. Oh, why did she insult me? Why did she insult me? 20 years I have been carrying her words in my mind. Yeah, somewhere I had stored them in my memory bank. So at the time of death, if those words come up, yeah, those Chitta 1, Chitta 2, Chitta 3, the number of times I repeated it to myself. Yeah. These are the last few Chittas just before death happens. Yeah. The black Chitta is the death Chitta. This is the death Chitta. Yeah. So what happened just before the death Chitta? I had these words in my head. Yeah, whatever it is, good, bad, we don't know. Yeah, whatever they were. These vasanas leave the body at death Chitta. Death Chitta is the last Chitta of this particular existence. They leave the body. And maybe you are not born immediately. Maybe you are born immediately. We don't know. Yeah. If you are not born immediately, this black colored death Chitta that you can see, there will be hundreds and thousands of black colored death Chittas. It is a time where you are in the present moment. Yeah, you are very relaxed. It is the period of rest and relaxation. The more the good karma in this life, the longer this period of rest and relaxation is. Yeah, the more bad karmas I have created in this life, this will be very short. I will not get much rest. I may be born immediately. Yeah. So this is the death Chitta, and this one is the rebirth linking Chitta. I'm just writing rebirth. You can write rebirth linking Chitta. If you noticed, it is the same impression as the last impression. The last impression was of sound, and you get a similar birth. Yeah. So from where did this come? These are my vasanas only. I held on to whatever she said, he said, good, bad, whatever, happy, sad, something very gory, something horrible he said or she said. I could never forget. I hated him or I hated her. What happened? I held on to those words, no? Now probably I'm born to him or her as his or her child. Yeah? I'm just giving an example. There could be so many different things, that different ways that this can happen. Yeah? So understand the stream of Chittas. Understand that the near-death Chitta is the Chitta which determines the next life. And what carried on really from this lifetime to the next life? Nothing but my vasanas. Very clear? Yeah. Now let's read what Vasistha said. This whole thing has been explained by Buddha. Yeah. Because Buddha was more like a scientist. He broke it down. Yeah. In his sutras, he has explained it like this. He broke it down. Now, we will see how Vasistha explains it. Rama asked, O sage, if the cessation of the movement of prana is liberation, then death is liberation. And all people attain liberation at death. Vasistha replied, O Rama, when prana is about to leave the body, it already makes contact with those elements with which the next one is to be fashioned. Got it? Here, elements means what? My vasanas. It is not earth, water, fire, ether, air only. Here we are talking about the impressions that I have collected in this lifetime. Yeah. So these impressions are of the mind, of the intellect, and of the ego. Yeah. So if you remember Ashtavakra Gita, in Ashtavakra Gita, Gurudev said, we are comprised of 8 elements. Yeah. Earth, water, fire, ether, air, and mind, intellect, and ego. He called even mind, intellect, ego as elements. That is what Vasistha is referring to here. Yeah? That we move on with our mind, our intellect, and our ego. Next, these elements are indeed the crystallization of the vasana. Got it? So if I had vasana of somebody's words, I have carried that vasana with me to the next birth. Yeah. Now, I just gave you an example of somebody's words. It can be something I have seen and I'm very attached to. Maybe I'm attached to my car. Maybe I'm attached to my house. Maybe I'm attached to a person. Yeah. So different things you can be attached to. It can be sense of sight. It can be sense of touch. Yeah. It could be sense of smell or taste. Yeah. I just gave you one example here. And what are these vasanas? Very clearly he has mentioned, it is psychological conditioning. Yeah? Or it is memory store. Yeah? Or it is past impressions. Or predisposition. He gave you 4 different ways to explain the same thing. Basically, whatever I have been very attached to, either I have a raga or a dvesha, I have created a karma impression and only that comes to my chitta. Yeah? For example, even if you fought with somebody in nursery school, you don't remember that friend anymore. Yeah? But if you really had a strong attachment even to some distant relative or a distant cousin at the same age, maybe when you were in kindergarten or in primary school, that attachment with that cousin, that relative, yeah, you probably even remember today. Yeah. So there are different things that we hold on to. Whatever I hold on to, that becomes my impression, that becomes my conditioning. Yeah. And that becomes my predisposition, means I move in that direction only. Attracted to those things only. It becomes a habit pattern. The reason why the jiva clings to those. So vasana is the reason why the jiva clings on. Yeah. When the prana leaves the body, it takes with it all the vasana of the jiva. Yeah, very clearly we saw at death chitta, all the vasana that I had related to this sense of hearing whatever words, whether of praise or criticism, I got attached to it, and rebirth happened with the same. Not indeed until these vasana have been destroyed will the mind become no mind. The mind does not abandon the life force till self-knowledge arises. Got it? Only one way out. You have to drop this vasana. Either you have ragas with people, situations and things which are becoming your vasanas, or you have dvesha towards certain people, situations and things. Those also become vasanas. So unless those are abandoned, the mind cannot move to the state of no mind. And the mind does not abandon the life force till self-knowledge arises. So here self-knowledge is Swabhava Jnana. Not listening to Vasistha's Jnana. Vasistha's Jnana is a stepping stone. It helps me. Yes, but Swabhava Jnana is my own realization, my aho moment. This is what it means. This is what really happens when I have that realization. That is self-knowledge. So unless that realization or that aho moment does not arise in you, you will not experience the cessation of prana. So what is the meaning of cessation of prana? Means the pranic body has to die off. Which means your puryastaka or your subtle body also has to die off. And which means what? Which means no more coming back into body again and again. Isn't this a scary feeling? Oh my God, if I don't come back into body again and again, then what? Then where do I go? Recognize that this fear or this little insecure feeling that you're having slowly turns to become your biggest fear as you move closer towards liberation. That is the last obstacle before moksha. You have to let go of that last fear of unknown. Oh my God, now what? So that cessation of prana will happen when? Only when self-knowledge arises. Or the mind does not abandon the life force. Life force is the prana till self-knowledge arises. By self-knowledge, the vasana are destroyed, and thus the mind too. It is then that the prana does not move. Got it? Self-knowledge destroys mind. And movement of the mind and movement of prana go hand in hand. We've done so many times this thing. If one ceases, the other can cease. So with self-knowledge, if the mind ceases, the prana will cease. That indeed is the supreme peace. It is by self-knowledge that the unreality and to the link between the mind and the life force. This puts an end to vasana and to the link between the mind and the life force. I'm so lost in this maya of people, situations and things. Even when we do some knowledge, even when we listen to the guru, for some time the effect remains. But the moment you come back into your house and with your family, that effect, fades off. And then you're back into the cycle of anger, jealousy, hatred, attachment, possessiveness, love, you listen to me, expectations, and the whole, drama. Then again, for some time we listen to knowledge, we withdraw from the drama. For some time, we are calm because the mind is not moving too much. But again, after the session is done, you go back into the drama and again you're lost. Yeah. So this loop keeps happening of the Maya, and it keeps pulling us in that direction. Yeah. When self-knowledge happens, what really happens? This, that you were experiencing a different you in the session and a different you when you are with people, situations and things. This duality drops off. Do you see this? Self-knowledge or that self-realization, helps drop this duality. And then there is just that centeredness, that establishment in knowledge. Yeah? There is no I, there is no you. There is just that being in the Sakshi Bhav. Yeah, last week we spoke about that little state that all of us experience where we are just at peace, just at harmony. It doesn't matter whether I get something or I don't get something. For that little while, I'm at peace with what is. Yeah? That state is a little taste of what I am talking of. It is very similar to that state. Yeah, that pure centeredness where there is no I, where there is no you. Yeah? Where there is just that witnessing. Yeah? The Sakshi Bhav. Just being, not doing. So when you come to that state of being, whether it's a knowledge session or whether it is family and friends and job and office and girlfriend or boyfriend, here also it is just being. So there is a singularity attained. You're just being. Yeah? This dvandva in the mind drops off. Got it? Unless you have reached this stage, self-knowledge has not happened. So homework number 1 for you. Have you attained this state of singularity? Have you attained this state of just being? Maybe you experienced it for a few minutes, for a few seconds, maybe in some silence course, maybe in your best meditation, but have you managed to reach that sense of just being and not doing? Yeah? You check. That indeed is the supreme peace. Yeah? In that singularity, in that just being, there is peace. It is by self-knowledge that the unreality of the concepts concerning worldly objects is realized. Yeah? I realize the duality only by this self-knowledge. This puts an end to vasana and to the link between the mind and the life force. Vasana constitute mind. Okay? So these chittas, these are nothing but vasanas. This is nothing but an echo in my head again and again and again and again. What she said, what he said, how I felt about it, how I should have reacted, how I should have not reacted, and it goes on. Got it? If the mind does not react to anything, this is blank. Got it? Yeah. So vasana constitutes mind. Mind is the aggregate of the vasana and not else. If the latter cease, that itself is the supreme state. So even for a few minutes, if you can experience that state where you are free from any vasana, no vasana to smell, no vasana to taste, nothing you want to touch, nothing you want to see, and no thoughts also of seeing or touching or smelling or hearing. Yeah, right now I might not be touching, smelling, hearing, etc., but I could be having the thoughts. Correct? So even the thoughts should not exist. Then you are in a state which is devoid of vasana. Okay? So now let's experiment. In this next 1 week, keep observing. Keep observing your own mind and see, is there even a few minutes in the day where I am devoid of vasana? Yeah, that's your homework number 2. Keep observing whether you can attain a state, even for a few minutes every day, where you're devoid of vasana. Devoid of what? Devoid of the desire to touch, devoid of the desire to taste, devoid of the desire to smell, devoid of the desire to see, or devoid of the desire to hear. And the thoughts of these desires, or the thoughts of what you saw, heard, tasted, smelled, or touched. Clear? Yeah. So just observe. Have I managed to recognize that present moment is so small, is so minuscule, that it really cannot have any vasanas? The moment I am in vasanas, I am either in the past or I am in the future. Yeah. The present moment is so minuscule that I cannot, there's no room for vasana. Not possible. Yeah. That state of being devoid of vasana, even for a few minutes, you have actually lived in the present moment. Knowledge is the knowledge of the reality. Vichara or inquiry itself is knowledge. Yeah? So, he's talking about the knowledge of, obviously, what this creation is. This Prakriti and this Purusha. The play of Prakriti and Purusha together. Yeah? And not getting this knowledge from an external scripture. That is not knowledge. When I inquire into it. Now, inquiry is also not always intellectual. A lot of people on the path start thinking that inquiry is intellectual. I have to think, okay, who am I? Okay, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind. Not in words. It's got nothing to do with the intellect. It is experiential, this process of self-inquiry. Yeah? You're not really talking to yourself, I'm not the body, or I'm not the mind, or I'm not the... That is just a medium of instruction. How do I communicate to you? So I'll obviously explain it that way. Yeah? Your meditation is actually a means of self-inquiry. Yeah? When you just sit down and meditate, yeah, slowly you go within, the awareness goes within, and you lose awareness of this body. So you don't have to say, I am not the body. You experience that somehow you withdraw from the body. For some time, you don't realize that there is pain in the knee. Maybe you had pain all day, and then you sat and meditated and you forgot about the pain in the knee. Yeah, and then suddenly you came out of meditation 15-20 minutes later and say, oh, I'd forgotten that my knee was paining. Oh, now it's paining again. Yeah, so you've come back into the body. So what happened in these 15-20 minutes? Somewhere you withdrew, somewhere deep inside. So self-inquiry is happening through experience. So meditation is really a process of self-inquiry. Yeah? And you actually experience it yourself. Yeah? I just gave you one example of withdrawing from the body. And you go deeper into meditation, you withdraw from the chabar of the mind also. That is also gone. Yeah, for a few minutes, you're just inside a very silent place. Yeah, that's when you recognize, oh, not the mind. Yeah, not that you will say it in words. The moment you say it in words, you are back into the mind. Yeah, you're back into the intellect. Yeah, it's an experience of that silence which helps you realize that you are not the mind, you are not the ego, you are not the memory. All these are also just words. Words in the mind. They are vasanas. They are actually just chittas. Yeah? And you are somewhere deep inside in the silence of the self. Got it? Yeah? So, the best method is self-inquiry. Because only self-inquiry will lead you to self-knowledge. So if you've not been meditating, it's a good time to start. Yeah? Start meditating. Be with yourself. It's so much peace just being within. Yeah? Just being at harmony with what is. Yes? Okay. Now we can go ahead.
Total dedication to one thing, restraint of prana, and the cessation of mind. If one of these three is perfected, one attains the supreme state. The life force and the mind are closely related, like a flower and its fragrance, or sesame seed and oil. Hence, if the movement of thought in the mind ceases, the movement of prana ceases too. If the total mind is one-pointedly devoted to a single truth, the movement of mind and therefore of life force ceases. The best method is to inquire into the nature of the self, which is infinite. Your mind will be completely absorbed, then both the mind and the inquiry will cease. Remain firmly established in what remains after that. When the mind does not crave for pleasure, it is absorbed into the self, along with the life force. Ignorance is non-existence. Self-knowledge is the supreme state. Mind alone is ignorance when it appears to be a reality. The realization of its non-existence is the supreme state. If the mind remains absorbed even for a quarter of an hour, it undergoes a complete change, for it tastes the supreme state of self-knowledge and will not abandon it. Nay, even if the mind has tasted it for a second, it does not return to this worldly state. The very seeds of samsara, world appearance, or birth, or cycle of birth and death are fried. With them, ignorance is dispelled and the vasana are utterly pacified. One who has reached this is rooted in truth. He beholds the inner light and rests in supreme peace.
Okay. So this is very important. Huh? He's given you three things. Number one, total dedication to one thing. Number two, restraint of prana. Number three, cessation of the mind. If one of these three is perfected, one attains the supreme state. Yeah. Total dedication of one thing does not mean if you like gardening, you sit and do gardening all day. No, he's not talking about worldly hobbies. Huh? Total dedication to just truth. Yeah, complete dedication to truth. Your focus is just that. Yeah, or complete dedication to seva. So much dedication to seva that even if nobody thanks you, it does not even occur to you. If somebody in fact criticizes you, you can't even hear the criticism. Your focus is the seva. Are you seeing this? Yeah. If somebody praises you, it does not inflate your ego. Your focus is just that seva. Yeah. Or focus is just knowledge. Just focusing on jnana. Okay, for now it is just external knowledge. Okay, it is still not my swabhava jnana, but my focus is just knowledge. Got it? So everybody has different paths. Everybody can get there in different ways. You find what your path is. Yeah? Either it is through karma yoga or jnana yoga or through bhakti. Total focus on the Guru. Does not matter what Guru Mandala is there around Guru. Yeah, Guru Mandala is the people around the Guru, the organization, the politics around the Guru, the fanfare around the Guru. Yeah, we get lost in the frills, and sometimes we get so lost in the frills, we forget about the Guru only. Yeah, we get lost in ragas and dveshas in this mandala, the Guru Mandala. Then your focus is not on the Guru. Yeah. If the Guru Mandala does not attract you or does not repel you, both, If the Guru Mandala neither bothers you nor is your attachment, your focus is totally the Guru, then it is one-pointed dedication. Yeah? That is Bhakti Yoga. Yeah? So everybody has a different path. You find your path. What can you dedicate yourself to so one-pointedly that praise, criticism, other people being there, not being there does not move your focus away? Got it? Yeah. Imagine that nobody else is there on this planet. Would you still pick up the Yoga Vasistha and read that intently? There is no Yoga Vasistha group and there is no Ekta. Would you still make that effort to understand what Vasistha is saying? To understand the scriptures? Yeah. If no, you cannot do it by yourself, then the dedication is still not there. It's kacha pakka. 50%, 60%, 70%. It's not 100% there. Now do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Similarly, yeah, the path of bhakti, if nobody else is there, can you still be a bhakt? Yeah. Or if Guruji is surrounded by all the politicians of the world and all the dirty politics and only bad people, can you still focus only on the Guru Tattva and not be swayed by all the muck around in the Guru Mandala? No, if your faith shakes by the Guru Mandala, then the dedication or the focus is still not one-pointed. It's not 100%. Got what I'm saying? Similarly, seva. Would you do that seva even if nobody was looking? If nobody praised you? If nobody even said anything? Yeah. If the answer is no, then you've not reached that one-pointed dedication. Understood what I'm saying now? Yeah. So one-pointed dedication means 100% focus is there. Yeah. The way Arjuna was. Arjuna could hit his arrow into the eye of the bird. Into the eye of the bird. His focus was so sharp, so one-pointed. Yeah, that's just given as an example. Like that, your focus on either seva or the Guru or the scriptures. If not Guru, God, Supreme Energy, Brahman consciousness, whatever you like. Krishna, Jesus, Allah, the book, doesn't matter. Anything can be the object of Bhakti Yoga. whatever you are comfortable with. Yeah? This is the easiest to start with. Yeah? But lukewarm dedication will not work on this path. Yes? What is it? Total dedication to one thing. Yeah? That's number one. So you check when I'm telling you, is this my path? Can I use this? Number two is restraint of prana. Yeah? Means the pranayams that we do. Sudarshan Kriya is also a type of pranayam. Yeah? So anything where we modulate the breath and the prana is restraint of prana. Yeah.
Are there other ways other than just the 3-stage pranayam and Sudarshan Kriya?
Yeah, there are many different types of prana. No, we do alternate nostril prana called Nadi Shodhan prana. Yeah, and then there is Brahmi pranayam, which you learn in the Art of Silence course. Yeah, and then we do the mudras after Bhastrika. Bhastrika is also pranayam, and after Bhastrika we do the mudra pranayam. Yeah, all these are pranayams. Anything that you do modulating the breath is pranayam. Understood? Yeah, regulating your breath or modulating your breath, that is pranayam.
But gap meditation is not that.
Gap meditation is more focusing on observing the gap. Yeah, your focus is not the breath. Here it is restraint of breath. Yeah, in gap meditation we are just focusing on that gap. So maybe if you get really an expert in observing the gap in between the breath, you may stop breathing for a while. That state can happen. Yeah. So that stopping breath happened because you observe the no mind in the gap. Yeah. It's actually cessation of the mind. But you're coming to it through the breath only. Yeah. See where the focus is. Yeah. But if you're just focusing on the breath, then it is really restraint of prana. Clear? The third one is cessation of the mind. All the meditations that we do, yeah, where we are not doing any pranayam, no breath, yeah, where we are, Guruji takes us to outer space and we do aura meditation, we do contentment meditation, all these different meditations, we expand so much. We expand the mind or the subtle body or the Puryastaka to an extent where we reach in almost infinity. And there's no more expansion to happen. So for a fraction of a second, you might experience the no mind in that. Yeah. So those are expansion meditations. Yeah. What the other way Buddha taught was the concentration meditation, where you just focus, observe the body, which is Panchakosha meditation, which Guruji does. Yeah? You just observe, take your attention to every little part of the body. You're focusing. Your focus has to be so sharp. Even in that focusing, it's exactly the opposite of expansion. Yeah? Concentration, focus, where your awareness becomes sharp like a knife. And you're totally in the present moment. Moment to moment. And you reach the state of cessation of the mind. Yeah? Some people reach it easily with expansion. Some people reach it very easily with concentration, with focus. Everybody is different. Whatever works for you. Methodology doesn't matter. You reach what? Cessation of the mind. Got it? So he's given you only 3 ways. If one of these 3 is perfected, one attains the supreme state. The life force and the mind are closely related. Life force here is the prana, okay? the prana and the mind are closely related, like a flower and its fragrance, or like sesame seed and oil. Hence, if the movement of thought in the mind ceases, the movement of prana ceases too. Yeah, one will affect the other. Yeah, very good pranayam also can get you there. But if you are not a great yogi and pranayam is not your way, then sometimes a very good meditation can lead you there. Whether you do the expansion meditation or the concentration meditation, doesn't matter. Yeah. That experience of cessation of mind can stop the prana, or the experience of cessation of prana can stop the mind. Yeah. They work hand in hand. They are like a couple. Yeah. If the total mind is one-pointedly devoted to a single truth, the movement of mind and therefore of life force ceases. So the other two are very easy to understand. That's why he's explaining only this one. Yeah, you have experienced this when probably you become so immersed in doing maybe some of your hobby. Maybe you like music, or you play the guitar, or you play the piano. Yeah, and then you get so absorbed in that music, there are no thoughts, absolutely silent. There's a very peaceful level in you, a very equanimous state. And when you're just immersed in that piano or in that music or whatever for a moment, because of the no mind, the breath also stops. Or for a long time, you don't take a very, you don't take a fast in or a fast out. Yeah? The gap between the in and out breath becomes longer. Yeah? So you must have noticed this during your hobbies also, whatever hobbies you have. Yeah? So that's what he's explaining. If the total mind is one-pointedly devoted to a single truth, the movement of mind and therefore of life force ceases. So this we've understood where my hobby is concerned. Now, how do I apply this to my spiritual side? The best method is to inquire into the nature of the self, which is infinite. Your mind will be completely absorbed. Then both the mind and the inquiry will cease. Remain firmly in what remains after that. So remember, I told you, meditation is the process of self-inquiry, where actually you withdraw from the body. You don't experience all the halchal or the things that are happening in your body. No sensations, nothing. You've withdrawn. You might see your mind saying wah, 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 wah for a while, and then you withdraw from that also. Yeah, you come to that process of I am not the body, I am not the mind. This is the process of self-inquiry. When you go within into that silence, there you have to practice getting established. The problem that many people on this path experience is they go in, but zoop, they are out. They don't remain established in what remains after. Means that silence that remains after the I am not the body and I am not the mind and ego, intellect, memory phase. Yeah? We might just touch it and come out. That is why we don't feel, oh, my meditation is not strong enough or not deep enough or it's not lasting. Why? Because we get stuck in the mind phase. Yeah? So make that extra effort to take that step back. Yeah? Now, how will you do it? Observe your chittas when you are meditating. Yeah? Suppose your eyes are closed, you're sitting quietly, you've gone into meditation, it's been 5-7 minutes. You're absolutely, in that state of silence. That state of silence you've just hit, and then you will see again one chitta comes up. Either it is a chitta of sound or a chitta of sight, and then for a moment it goes on. If you don't give any attention to it, you just watch it, it will fade away. The chitta will go away. This chitta needs fuel. One chitta feeds into the other. The next chitta feeds into the other. That's how the cycle continues. If you don't feed this chitta only, you remove this from the middle. You don't feed it. Finished. Then the next cannot happen. Then there'll be total silence. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Yeah, you forget about the death and rebirth part right now. Yeah. Just focus on what I'm saying. The thoughts are there. Suddenly you experience silence. And then again the thought comes back, she said this to me. You don't pay any heed to it. You take one step back. Yeah. You don't give it another supporting chitta. The supporting chitta is the problem. Where you start talking to it, no. I should not be thinking about this right now. I am meditating. I have thought. Got it? This is the supporting chitta. You just observe. And again, there'll be silence. This will drop away. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. This you can recognize only by your own experience. You just take that step back and observe. Do not react. Yeah? Do not interact. Do not hold the hand of that chitta. Yeah? Let it come, let it go. This will deepen your being established in that silence. In that, what he's saying, that which remains after that. Remain firmly established in what remains after that. He's talking about that silence. Clear? One more important thing here is your mind will be completely absorbed. Then both the mind and the inquiry will cease. Yeah? That only happens in the silence. Initially, there are thoughts related to the body, then there are thoughts related to the mind. Then you go into the silence, where the mind drops off, the body drops off, inquiry drops off. There is just silence afterwards. Yeah? Keep observing. These moments of silence are there during the day also. Maybe in office you're sitting, you're with colleagues and all. For some time there is interaction, there's talking, everybody then goes away. You're just sitting with your laptop. You might think about some things some conversations that happened prior to everybody going away. But then you just calm down after some time and you continue working. And maybe then a period comes where there is no work and you also observe the mind is also stopped. Might be a very few moments, but during the day also we experience this that remains after, or the period of silence that he's talking about. It's very short. That period of silence is very short. Yeah? But observe that. Hold on to that. Learn to get established in that. Yeah? When the mind does not crave for pleasure, it is absorbed into the self along with the life force. So, next homework for you is observing these moments of silence that happen. It may happen during the day at work, in office, at home. Even sometimes while watching TV, you're not really watching TV. You're not even thinking. There's just this sudden silence that has happened. Yeah? And observe that sudden silence. There is no vasana to watch TV at that moment. Yeah? Or if it's happened in office, there's no vasana to interact with a colleague or do some work or not do work or talk to the boss or not talk. All are vasanas. Yeah? Any desire is a vasana. So you observe this state where you are devoid of desire. It happens many times during the day. Yeah? So he's saying when the mind does not crave for pleasure, it is absorbed into the self along with the life force. Ignorance is non-existence. Self-knowledge is the supreme state. Yeah? So we know Maya and we know Jnana. Yeah? When we are in the state of Jnana, Swabhava Jnana, we recognize, oh, Maya does not exist. It is not there. Yeah? Ignorance is just non-existent. Only self-knowledge is there. But then I get lost in this Maya. What is the meaning of getting lost in this Maya? I'm out of that little period of silence that I experienced. Yeah? And why did I get out of that little silence? Because of vasana. Yes? So every time you recognize, oh, right now my mind is desiring to see this, my mind is desiring to touch this, or my mind is desiring to eat that, just withdraw and just be. From doing, come to being and just observe. Just observe, okay, if I don't do, what will happen? For some time the chittas will do wah, 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 and then the wah, wah will drop. Yeah? Observe that silence that happens after. Yeah? And sometimes the vasana is so strong, it doesn't drop off. Especially when you want to eat that chocolate ice cream. Yeah? So then have the chocolate ice cream and recognize that really there was no great joy in it. Yeah? The joy is in the chitta of the ice cream. Okay, the wrong one here. Yeah? The joy is just in the chitta of the ice cream. That's the chitta of the ice cream. The joy is not really in the ice cream. When you have the ice cream, you realize, yeah, okay, big deal, nothing so great. Yeah? Even if it is delicious, it is awesome, but still, it was the mind's, storyland, Alice in Wonderland, creating Manohar Kahaniya, which is not really the case. The joy was not in the ice cream itself. Then after that ice cream also you can come back and just be and then experience the silence after. Yeah? So you start observing every little desire of yours. Yeah? Every little vasana. Mind alone is ignorance when it appears to be a reality. The realization of its non-existence is the supreme state. If the mind remains absorbed even for a quarter of an hour, it undergoes complete change, for it tastes the supreme state of self-knowledge and will not abandon it. Nay, even if the mind has tasted it for a second, it does not return to this worldly state. Yeah, this has happened to us. Yeah. Now, after coming so far, can you drop this, Yoga Vasistha? Come what may, you just can't let it go. Right? Yeah. Once you've tasted it, you will never go back. Yeah. So the joy of this knowledge, this self-knowledge, those moments where you experience, aha, oh, those moments that you have tasted, Yeah? They will never let you go back to that worldly you who you were before. Yeah? So this experience of self does not happen only in meditation with eyes closed. This experience of self happens in those aho moments in self-knowledge, where you recognize some knowledge when it comes up in you. Yeah? That opening up, that blossoming within you. Yeah? Even for a second, if you have tasted that, there is no going back. Yeah? Because you have started understanding that which is beyond ignorance, beyond Maya. Yeah? And not everybody is fortunate enough to taste something like this. And you understand it just by its taste, that this is something that I cannot let go. And even if, say, life happens and you let go because of people, situations, things, in your next lifetime you will come back to it. Yeah? So it's like no way out. It is a one-way street. Yeah? And a friend, long ago, he was a teacher. He's no more with the art of living, but he used to say, the spiritual path is a one-way street. It just goes one way. There is no going back. You only go one way. You may stop on that way. You may stop for 10 lifetimes, standing in that one spot. But after that, you will have to move only in that direction. There is no going back. Which is such a relief, no? Yeah? That you will never go down. You will at the most stop. But you always keep moving. It's so beautiful, no? It's a one-way street. The very seeds of samsara are fried. And what are the seeds of samsara? World appearance or cycle of birth and death. Yeah? So when you keep walking on that one-way street, you finally do come to cessation of mind or cessation of prana. Yeah? And you get out of this cycle of birth and death. With them, ignorance is dispelled and the vasana are utterly pacified. One who has reached this is rooted in sattva, which is truth. He beholds the inner light and rests in supreme peace. Yeah? That one-way street only ends with peace, with supreme peace. Yeah? We are very lucky to have a master who is showing us the path. Yeah. Okay. Is this clear? Yeah, this page took a long time today. The next 3 pages is just, you remember Bikram and Betal's story? Yeah, it's just story. So we can read on our own. We'll do some homework. Yeah, we'll read the vampire story on page 285, and we'll read the beginning of Bhagirath's story on page 286 and 287. Yeah, then if there are some paragraphs of knowledge, I'll revisit those, but I won't read all the stories fully. You read the stories, okay? So you will read 3 pages, clear? 285, 286 and 287. Yeah. And I'll revisit just the knowledge paragraphs and then I'll move on with 288 the next time. Clear? Any questions? No? All good? Bye. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.